Well, welcome in. I'm Tony Altieri, and that is Riku Mukherjee. And Rick, we finally have good news, dude. We finally, after, I don't know, like 6, 7, feels like a million weeks of hitting basically runner-ups every single week, we finally hit a winner and say, it is you. You hit Cage Lee like 125-1. Congratulations, man.
Let's go. Finally, man. Took forever. 4 weeks. Last time we hit a winner on the show was Scotty Scheffler at the Masters with you. And then after that, it was literally runner-up after runner-up after runner-up. And we finally got across the finish line, 125-1. Got some extra pocket change for a major championship this week. I am pumped. Let's go.
I know, right? You're refueled. The betting bank account is now fully bankrolled for the week. So you've got, like you said, some extra cash to throw at this thing. And we got a good one, man. Obviously, the PGA Championship, the second major. This is moved from the schedule after they did kind of the COVID restructure, where now this falls in the schedule as the second major. And to be honest with you, I love it. It provides some gap filler between what was the Masters and the U.S. Open, and we've got a great course. I mean, before we go too far into it, we should talk a little bit about last week and just kind of how things outlined, if there were any takeaways. I had the great fortune of being there actually live in Dallas, watching the tournament as it all kind of unfolded. Had an opportunity to walk the course and follow some groups, sat on the 17th hole for a good portion of one day and watch group by group by group come through. And it was a lot of fun. Like I've told you before, I mean, I get people liking like grind it out, 4, 5, 8 under style, super difficult courses. But me personally, I love the Scorefest.
Yeah, I thought it was a really fun tournament, to be completely honest with you. It was I don't mind it. I don't mind the birdie fests. I personally like these weeks a little bit more when it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. It just kind of, but that's more of a personal bias, just because I personally like to see the pros struggle a little bit, just because I play the game myself, and it brings them back down to earth a little bit. Even though I know if I was going out there and playing Southern Hills, I wouldn't be able to break like 120 from the tip. So, but still, yeah, I like the birdie fest. They're firing at all pins, and even with that, last week, even though KH Lee won at 125-1. That leaderboard was amazing, especially like late on Sunday with Xander, Hideki, Spieth. Who am I missing? JT was in there. Scheffler was a few back. Like it was an amazing leaderboard. Munoz, obviously, I was rooting for Munoz for you until KH Lee really got into the thick of things, because I knew I had a Neiman ticket, and I knew by like hole 8 that Neiman was not going to win this tournament. Like he did not play well on Sunday. So after I knew that, I was rooting for Munoz, and then KH Lee Eagle 12, and I was like, okay, now I just gotta forget Tony. I just gotta root for my ticket here. But yeah, I mean, Munoz is eventually going to come through for you at one of these birdie fests. But he was in there. He played well until Sunday. Through Sunday.
Yeah, it was funny because on Saturday, obviously I had Munoz, but Munoz is almost like a FOMO bet for me. I almost bet him every single week. There's a handful of guys that just are consistently on my card. He is one of them. And we were talking about it, really that and kind of the JT number as we sat Saturday night kind of thinking what was going to happen were really the only two things in play. Obviously you had the Neiman ticket as well. So those are the three guys we kind of, I guess, had our money on and our hopes aligned on. And to your point, like the way that things fell out on Sunday, there were so many guys in contention. Xander really was the rabbit that all the dogs were chasing. I mean, he came out and shot 11 under. Decky was right there. He had an amazing day. And like I had mentioned kind of in our group chat, I was like, if somebody can get in house like 23 under, like it gets interesting. And it turns out Decky got all the way I think to 24 and was sitting there waiting to see how things were unfolding. And I'll be honest with you, man, I watched KH Lee come home on the 17th, and it was like,
that was a sick putt. Yeah,
I remember watching it, and I was like, if he bogeys this hole, like this could throw the whole thing into some massive playoff where we could have 3, 4, 5 guys potentially in this playoff. Yeah. And you know what? He gets I shouldn't say out of the bunker, but off the edge of the green and drains like an 8-10 footer to save par. And then he birdies the 18th. And it was just like, as soon as he hit the par putt on 17, I'm like, it's over. It's a lock because he's going to birdie 18 and he's going to have 2 strokes and that's it. You know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think from now on, just forget the Munoz full tournament bets. Just bet him first round leader. Just whenever he plays, it's the only thing you should do is just bet him first round leader or like maybe a top 5 or top 10 or something like that. Because I don't know, he just never gets across the finish line when he gets hot. Like we saw him melt at the Players Championship last month, but that was a little bit more not like really a Munoz kind of course, but. At a tournament like this where it's like a birdie bonanza, man, that guy just gets so hot. And then obviously we saw him come out on Thursday and like light up the course. And I think he shot at like a 60 on Thursday. That's insane at that course. So yeah, just bet him first round leader from now on. I think you got to give up the tournament bets for him.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to cash a top 5 at
top
a pretty
5,
good number.
It's good.
But you know, my DraftKings lineups, much like yours, were sunk when both Burns and Will Z missed the cut.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, were affected the same way. I mean, they were so popular. Both guys checked all the boxes, and they kind of fell out. I think the one thing that we've said over and over again about these guys who are, and maybe not necessarily Burns, but more the Will Z narrative, is when you're talking about a guy who traditionally does not putt well, when you get into tournaments where it becomes a score fest, like you have to be firing on all cylinders. And if you can't make putts for birdies, you're not going to be able to compete with these guys who get nuclear hot like Munoz and KH Lee and even Spieth, who missed, who 3-putted from 7 feet, famously on Twitter, we saw that. But, it's one of those things where you just have to be able to putt and make 8, 10, 12 footers consistently in these score fests, or you're just going to get lapped by the field.
Yeah, you're right. It's just one of those events where you just gotta hope your guy just goes out and makes birdies and eagles and just makes the cut. When we saw the cut at -5, I mean it's a low cut, so you just gotta get through. Will Z did crush me a little bit. I mean he was in my main lineup and I played that lineup in the 555 this week, and it still cashed as a 5 out of 6, which was really good because I had, let's see, I have it right in front of me. I had JT, Will Z, Cam Champ, Shams Power, Tom Hoagie, and Austin Smotherman. So I had a 5 out of 6, with obviously JT being the horse there at -23. So even with the 5 out of 6, it shows that when you play in like a smaller field, like kind of high dollar tournament, which we'll talk about a little bit more in like for this week, you can make a mistake and still cash if the rest of your lineup does well. So even though Will Z hurt a little bit, I probably could have cashed a little bit more. It still cashed the lineup. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point as we kind of transition from last week. Again, congratulations for the win. And we look kind of at this week and how majors play out, specifically from a DraftKings perspective. When we start talking about tournament selection and where you're placing your money and how you build lineups, tracking ownership, all of those things take on a much different lifestyle in terms of what you should and what should be done based off of field size. When you're in the Millionaire Maker against hundreds of thousands of people, the way that you construct lineups needs to be much different, to your point, than if you're in a high stakes, high dollar tournament where you could be competing against hundreds or low thousands of people in terms of a contestant pool, because obviously your opportunity to cash is much better in those fields because it's a much smaller sample size.
Yeah, it's when you play those big GPPs, the ones with the Millie Maker or whatever, it's all the only thing you should really care about there is ownership. If you see somebody chalky, don't play them. If you see somebody low owned, go heavy on them. Just pick and choose there. But like I said, you can be a little bit more chalky in the big dollar low field size GPPs, just because even though you're a little bit chalky, because of the low field size, it doesn't hurt you as much as it would on a big field where the chalk really, really does matter. So it's just one of those games that you pay. The more experience you get in playing DraftKings, the more you're going to learn these kind of things. And I've been playing for a few years now, so I kind of have gotten that down. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm excited for this week. The PGA Championship, it's way different than last week because the pricing is so soft, because we got really good golfers in the low 7,000s or high 6,000s, even compared to last week where it was all trash down there. So it's nice to get into because you can get somebody, somebody really good. Like, I mean, we're eventually going to talk about Cam Young, but like, well, you can get somebody like Sergio Garcia at 7,200, who's like a really good golfer. Whereas last week you're getting hot trash at 7,200 compared to Sergio.
Yeah, no, I mean, you mention it that with the field strength being so much better in these major fields, that obviously we get price compression. Guys who had been in the $7,000, $8,000, and $9,000 range in a tournament like last week, those guys are down here in the 6Ks this week. The guys like we talked about earlier, your Sebastian Munoz's and your Matt Kuchar's and your Aaron Wise's. These guys were, like I said,
Keith Mitchell is
6,600
this week.
Yeah, so I mean, you're getting much better pricing, and so you can construct lineups with guys from the 10Ks and the 9Ks, and still have a solid lineup that has a decent amount of win equity and made cut equity, even though you're dropping down into the 6,000s. And this field is a little bit unique compared to most majors, right? When we look at the U.S. Open and the Masters and the terms in terms of like the field size, and then how many real contenders there are. In the PGA Championship, we've got, 15 to 20 PGA teaching pros through, sectional qualifying events that have got in to play in this. 90% of those guys are not going to make the cut. So take 20 guys and just throw them in the garbage. Yep. And then you've got a bunch of like international guys from, various PGA tours like the Canadian Tour and the Sunshine Tour and what have you. Those guys, their made cut equity is 0. So there's another 15 to 20 guys you can throw into the garbage. So the field that is 160 guys, realistically, when you start going through and removing these types of guys, there's guys that have won before that have no business, participating anymore, but because they've won the PGA Championship before, they've been invited back to play. You kind of find that there's about 80 real golfers in this field, and the top 70 in cuts make the cut this week. So the likelihood of people getting 6 of 6 through the cut in this major championship versus any other is obviously much higher. So, there's an opportunity, but that also means that because there will be the potential for more 6 of 6s, it's even that much more important to make sure that you're doing what you talked about, which is playing game theory and making sure that you're getting the guys that are contributing the most DraftKings points back to your lineups consistently each and every day, because there are going to be a higher percentage of 6 lineups that make it through this week.
So what you're telling me is that we're not rostering John Daly this week?
No John Daly this week.
No John Daly this week? No Jimmy Walker this week?
Yeah, no Jimmy Walker. I think Jimmy actually withdrew. There's a number of guys that have already pulled out. But I mean, it's like, like Alex Zejka, who won this in the senior PGA Championship or US Open, whatever. Like, don't roster him. Like, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
They're just, and even when we get down to the 6Ks, I just went ahead and removed all the PGA Tour pros that are in this, right? All the teaching pros that were on the list, I just pulled them out and said, don't even put them in your lineups. Don't even look at them for contention.
There's a lot of past champions here. Sean McKeel is here. Rich Beam is here. Duffner obviously is here. A lot of past champions in this field. Davis Love.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of guys from from the Asian tour that are here, and like we mentioned, the Mackenzie tour, and it's like the reality that those guys, like that any percentage of those guys gets through the cut is very, very low, especially when we're talking about a track that is as difficult as what we're going to see this week in Southern Hills.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into it, man. This course is a monster, man. It looks tough.
Well, I mean, when you talk in terms of strokes to par versus the overall length of the field, it's 7,556 yards. It's playing as a par 70. So that means a number of the holes were converted. The, par 5s are converted to par 4s. The par 3s all measure out more than 175. I think there's only one hole on the par 3s this week that measures below 200 yards, and one of them measures 250 yards. So obviously this is an extremely long course. Everything's going to be cut down. It's going to be fast and firm. The one thing that is going to be different from this setup versus what we traditionally see in like US Open setups, the PGA, the guys that put on the PGA Championship and the folks that do US Open setups, it feels like the course selection and the way that they're making the courses more difficult, that those things have been trending more towards each other. But traditionally, the PGA Championship doesn't have the level of like rough length that the US Open does. Like the US Open traditionally ratchets it up the off the fairway and around the green rough and makes it even that much more tough. And at a place like this, we're going to be in Oklahoma. It's May. There just hasn't been the conditions and the time necessary to be able to grow the grasses around the rough and the native areas to make it more difficult, but it will be extremely fast. It will be extremely firm. And obviously they've extended the length on the course quite a bit. If we look back to last year, Kiawah Island, we had probably the biggest shocker in terms of major winners in at least recent memory. Phil wins it at beyond 100-1 last year. Kind of out of nowhere, and was in it from day one all the way through, played out of his mind. Obviously, he's already withdrawn and said he's not playing this year. But a lot of the same statistical measures that we were looking at last year, right? The ball striking, driver distance, the keys on approach, the long par 4 scoring, and of course, proximity from beyond 200 yards. We're going to see many of the same factors in terms of the statistical modeling that we'll be looking at as key components for what we'll be looking for this week. I mean, Rick, as you're kind of like thinking through like roster construction and bets this week outright, it's like what are the types of guys, the player profiles that you'll be kind of looking at?
The first thing that is going to be kind of important to me is, just forgetting about the golfers for a second. The first thing, just looking at the weather for this week, I just want to touch on that real quick.
Yep.
It looks pretty crazy, to be completely honest with you. It's, I don't know, man. I'm seeing as of right now, we're recording this on a Monday evening. And for Tulsa, Oklahoma, late Thursday, I'm seeing anywhere up from like 20 to 35 mile per hour gusts. Early Friday, we're looking at like 45 mile per hour gusts. So I really hate to like be that guy again, like we had talked about in the Players Championship. At least it's not looking like there's any precipitation. It looks like it's just a wind thing, but it's looking like AM PM is going to be much better wind wise, because it looks like all the heavy wind is going to be Thursday night through Friday morning. So just keep that in mind. Obviously things might change when it comes to that, but if that ends up being the case where Friday morning you're going to get 50 mile per hour winds, you might have to avoid those guys, at least, especially if the bad players in that range. But the actual golfers themselves, I like Bombers this week. This course they widened their fairways when Gil Hanse did the redesign, so they widened their fairways recently. So I think Bombers are not going to be hesitant to pull their driver out. Obviously, we know the course is already long in itself. So I like guys that are really good off the tee this week. The long irons, like you just said, par 4 scoring, 450 to 500 plus, proximity to it. Those are good stats to be looking at. We always talk about ball striking every week. That's going to be always important. But these are also pretty undulated greens, so you might want to potentially look at putting a little bit, bent grass putting. These are bent grass greens, so I don't know how much you want to play into that, but I definitely did look into good putters on bent grass for this week as well. But I think the main thing here is going to be distance and off the tee.
Yeah, I think like we see for U.S. Opens, there's a premium on distance, right? Guys can get it down there farther. But we've also seen in, at least recent renditions of the U.S. Open, which again, I've kind of said that, PGA setups and U.S. Open setups are similar, where we've seen some of the shorter hitters, because the fairways are so fast and so firm, take advantage of the fact that they can hit the ball low, ride winds, and balls will roll out, an additional 20, 30 yards, right? So a guy who's typically hitting the ball, 290 to 300 yards, now with the conditions, the fact that the ball's not hitting and sticking, but that it's hitting and rolling out, if they're reaching the right parts of the fairway, that you could see these guys gain extra distance just because of the conditions. With all that being said, I feel the same way you do. Like, I think distance is at a premium, and those guys that can put it out there a long way are going to be well positioned, to have an approach shot rather than hitting, 4 or 5 iron. These guys are going to be hitting 7s and 8s, and that's a significant advantage for any golfer. The fact that you can hit a lower, shorter club, more lofted, gives you more control, the ability to work the ball, stop the ball, especially if we're talking about very small, fast greens, which is another thing that everybody's talking about with this course, is that the green complexes are very, very small. They're going to be shaved. So you're going to have balls that are going to hit edges of these greens that are going to roll right off and roll into bunkers and into native areas because it will be so fast and so firm.
Yeah, and because of that, I kind of think around the green, for people that are looking at around the green, I think that gets neutralized a little bit just because there's so many people that are going to be missing the greens this week, that I think that, like, I don't know, it just kind of like it seems counterintuitive, but like I think around the green play comes through when a lot of people are hitting the greens, because that's when you're around the green game needs to be good, because if you miss the green, you want to be able to get up and down. But in a situation like this, when everyone's trying to get up and down, I don't know, man. It just feels like it's going to be tough chipping for, like, it doesn't matter if it's Victor Hovland, who's bad at chipping, or Patrick Reed, who's amazing at chipping. Like, I think it's going to be tough chipping for everyone around the green. So I'm not really factoring in around the green this week. So I think that's going to be a little mitigated for me.
Yeah, the one thing that I try to incorporate in basically all of these stats when I'm trying to figure out like what I want to hone in on is, what is the scoring conditions like, right? So to your point, if par's a good score, right, then you want guys that are, good at bogey avoidance, and, they're good at lag putting, right? And to your point about around the green game, it can be one of two ways. To your point, it could be so difficult where it just is tough for everybody, and it doesn't matter whether you're Jordan Spieth Magic Beans or you're a guy who can't get out of bunkers like Jason Kokrak, because
why do you gotta mention Kokrak, man? That's my boy this week. He's on my card.
It's funny. He hit into a bunker on, I think it was Saturday. Yeah, he hit into a bunker on Saturday on 17. I'm like, watch him not get out of this thing. But he did. He got up and down. He made his par putt. No big deal. So
there you go.
But yeah, so I can again, just like with weather, we kind of build these narratives around the kind of lineups and construction of players that we're going to target. But things can flip. You mentioned it. We saw it happen at the Players Championship this year, where it was like we knew what the weather was going to be, and so we had the draws, and guess what? It delayed things so long that it actually flipped the weather splits. And so these things can be very, very difficult when trying to figure out how things are going to play out and projecting what weather's going to be. But at the same time, if you can hit it right, it presents a serious advantage for you versus the rest of the people. And if you're in a milli maker, that kind of variance can mean the difference between, winning $1 million or, finishing dead last.
Yeah, I think this week is a little bit more predictable than the Players was, just because there's no precipitation that's going to delay the play this week. So, but still, the wind can change. It could end up being heavy winds Thursday morning, and we don't know. So what I always suggest is that if you're going to be leaning a stack, like if you're going to let's just say you're playing 150 lineups and you're going to be leaning like a AM PM stack, then just make sure that you make, let's just say you do 25% of your lineups AM PM. Just make sure you do like 10% PM AM, just in case. You never know. You want to do the opposite wave stack just in case if the weather flips and no one is going that way. If everyone is going the AM PM way, then your lineups are going to be a little bit different with the PM AM stack. So just always do that. If you're doing minimal number of lineups, like 3 lineups or something like that, that's something that you can't really do. But if you're doing a lot of lineups, that's something you can do. So if you're doing a minimal number of lineups, like 3 to 5 lineups, then at that point you probably just got to play either your wave stack or just the guys you like at that point.
Absolutely. I think having a strategy that incorporates some of that variance and elements of chance that can happen. We see it happen each and every week is important. Like we said, being different means something, especially when you're talking about these massive field events or you're talking about, multiple entry tournaments. But let's jump into it, man. Let's get into the top of the board. Let's talk about DraftKings this week, as well as get into our bets. Top of the board, the 5 best players in the world coming in inarguably the 5 best forms. I can make a case for each one of these guys to win this week. It's Monday. It's a little bit early to be looking at ownership, but I mean, where do you think ownership's going to pool, Rick? And I guess the big question is, do you go Scotty Scheffler or Jon Rahm? Because I don't think you can put both guys in the same lineup.
No, I don't think you can put them both. I mean, you can, but the rest of your lineup is going to be garbage. So I don't recommend that. But out of those 2 this week, I'm going all in on Rahm. I think at a course like this where, I mean, unless I see that he gets a really bad weather draw, but I mean, all the suggestions that I'm going to be giving is just I'm not basing it on weather at the moment because we don't even have tee times yet. So, but just between Scheffler and Rahm this week, I'm going Rahm for sure. I think at a course that is difficult, low scoring, someone that needs to be great off the tee. I mean, all these things Scheffler is good at, but I think Rahm is a little bit better than him. And I'll take the $200 discount too. So I think for me, I am going to be comping this course to Torrey a little bit, which is obviously a course that Jon Rahm dominates at. So I definitely like Rahm between those 2. I think I'm going to end up completely fading Scheffler just because if he beats me again, my God, I mean, I just can't imagine him doing it again. He's Andercurse this week. If anybody knows what that is from the Pat Mayo show, he's cursed this week. I saw Patrick Reed like giving him the voodoo jinx on his clubs earlier today on a tweet. So I just have a feeling that Scheffler is not going to be in contention this week. I'd rather go to Rahm. If Scheffler does it again, I'm just going to take it on the chin. I do have some early ownership projections. I know this is Monday, so we still got to wait for them to mature a little bit. But in this range, it looks like the ownership is flooding towards JT and Rory. It looks like it's leaning a little bit more towards JT. It looks like a lot of people are going towards him. Rory, I think they're liking the fact that he's $10,000, which is $1,400 cheaper than Scheffler. So I think that's where the ownership is lying. So for me, it's going to be Rahm, and I'm going to take that sandwich play right there in between Justin Thomas and Rory and go to Colin Morikawa.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about a course that's going to play difficult where off the tee is important and approach play is important, I mean, it's really hard for me to stay away from Colin Morikawa. Obviously, he won at Harding Park 2 years ago. He won this event. Last year he finished in the top 10. So, even though he's not a bomber per se, he's also not a guy who is a short hitter. So, I think his ability to be able to work the ball, he hits a beautiful butter cut off the tee. Yep. I don't see a lot of negatives with Morikawa this week. And so if I can get him, especially where ownership is going to be much higher on the 2 guys that you mentioned above him and below him, I'll take all the Morikawa I can get. And, I feel similarly with you about Rahm, where the long-term version of Jon Rahm, there's no question he's the better player. It's just in a vacuum right now. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler's the number 1 player of the world. He's won 4 times in 6 events. He's got multiple top 5s, top 10s, top 2s. I mean, he's unbelievable right now. And we're playing at a course that he's said multiple times, and it's been cited that this is absolutely his favorite course on the planet. He shot a 64 in a practice round 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. So there's all this narrative and buzz. But I think like you, I don't know if I'll end up using either of them in DraftKings, but if I'm going to be using one on a betting card, this is probably the first time all year where I feel like there's value on Jon Rahm at a number, depending on the book, where you could find him anywhere from, 14 to 18 to 1, and Scheffler's consistently kind of 14 to 10 to 1, again, depending on the book that you're looking at. It's the first time I can honestly say that I saw some value in Jon Rahm from a betting perspective.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough. It's really, really tough to stomach not going to Scheffler in DraftKings. Because of how amazing he's been. He even played played well last week at the Byron Nelson, where his mind was probably on this upcoming week. So, he's the best player in the world right now. I give him every single ounce of credit where credit is due. Like you said, he said this is his favorite course. He's a Texas guy. He's played this course in the Big 12 plenty of times. This is Oklahoma State's like home course, so I'm sure in Big 12 competition, when he played for UT, like he came and played this course a ton. So he's familiar with this area, this part of the country. It is all the signs do point towards him. So I'm just gonna stomach it and just go to John Rahm instead of Scheffler. And if it kills me, it kills me. I don't really know what to say at that point. I'm just going to eat it. I'm not going to be. If I play 100, if I end up playing 150 lineups, I can't have 0 of Scheffler.
Sure.
I'll probably just be like low, like underweight or whatever. But if I end up playing like less lineups, I'm just going to just roll with my gut and go with Rahm, who I think is going to win the tournament this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's particularly with DraftKings lineups and construction this week, I would hold out as long as you possibly can to do lineups. Watch ownership mature. Take a look Wednesday. See how things are trending. There's multiple sites that track this, that report it. And they're watching all of the talking heads, folks like Pat Mayow, and all of those guys out there trying to figure out where ownership is pooling and giving you an advantage. And if you see a lean one way or another, whether it's Scheffler or it's Rahm, I would highly advise taking the lesser of the two, just because the win equity for both guys is extremely high. You're not sacrificing much there. And, you could have a significant advantage on, 25, 30% of the field if you're able to fade one versus the other.
Yeah. And also if it comes out that Scheffler's in the better wave or something like that, like win wise,
Yep.
then I might flip my decision and go to Scotty. But it's definitely down to those two for me. And I like Morikawa this week. I think, like you said, at a course where, his length is fine. It's not the most important thing, but we've seen Colin Morikawa come out. The guy's finished top 8 in his last like 4 majors. And he's won 2 of them. I mean, come on, like this guy is amazing in major championships. It's not a big deal that we haven't seen him in a while. He even when he comes off on long layoffs, he comes out pretty well. But I like Morikawa this week. I like him more than JT and Rory for sure.
Yeah, I think mainly because of the ownership, I'm there with you. So you and I are both on Morikawa, and I think really the debate is Scheffler or Rahm, and that's something that I think needs to be decided based off of the things that you cited, weather splits and ownership.
Yeah, I totally agree with all that. And with the thing with JT, I get the love for him. I get why the ownership is flooding towards him. He played great last week.
Yeah,
but I don't know, man. Just everyone keeps saying he's knocking on the door. He's knocking on the door. But the guy hasn't won in a really long time, man. Is he going to win in this field at this tough of a course? I don't know, man. His putter always lets him down. His driver gets squirrely at times. I'd rather take the consistency with Rahm or Morikawa. I like Rory more than JT this week, to be completely honest with you, just because of how Rory hits the ball off the tee. But it just gets a little squirrely for me. So if JT's going to be the chalk in this range, I think it's kind of an easy fade for me.
Yep. Dropping down in the next range, the 9Ks are packed. You mentioned the fact that this is in Tulsa. It's Okie State's home course. Victor Hovland is an Okie State Cowboy, along with a number of other guys in the field this week. But you've got Hovland, Cam Smith, Spieth, DJ, Xander, Decky, Cantlay, and Brooks Koepka. There's a number of these guys that I would say they're getting a bit of a discount because of recency bias, right? They haven't played in a little while. And then you've got guys like Jordan Spieth, who's been on a tear for the last few weeks. I guess the real question is, where are people going to go? I mean, this feels like a natural DJ course, but he really hasn't played like the DJ that we, kind of knew and grew on here over the last 4 to 5 years. He's just kind of been plodding along, and he's never really scaring to win. He's making cuts, he's playing okay, but it's definitely not like what I would call world class. Mm-hmm. And, when you think about the long-term form for what he does and where he plays well, obviously he's, ranks 3rd in terms of his PGA Championship track record. The only guy in this area that's better than him is obviously Koepka, who's won it twice and has finished in the top 5 2 other times. So, I mean, what do you think? I don't think people are going to go to DJ because he hasn't done anything as of late. Do you think this is an opportunity to buy low on a guy like DJ?
It's a good opportunity to buy low. He is looking early on a Monday, looking like he is going to be lower owned in this area. Uh, it just seems like all the ownership in the 9K range is flooding towards Spieth and Cantlay. Those are the two names that are sticking out in this range from an ownership perspective. I know that hurts you a little bit because I'm sure you love Cantlay this week. That's probably your boy in this range. Me a little bit less, just because I get Cantlay's been playing well. I get he's coming off of a win at Zurich or whatever. But I just can't. For the life of me, I just can't get past his terrible, terrible, terrible major championship performance in his career. It is so bad, and I think maybe when the time gets big, he just folds a little bit, and he's not the best golfer in major championships. Does he deserve to be priced in this range? Absolutely. Does he deserve to be 7th overall in your model? Absolutely. The guy has been playing amazing for the last year, and we know that. But in major championships, the guy just doesn't pay off his price tag ever. I would much, much, much rather pay up the extra $100, go to Decky, or if you can get to Vic or Cam Smith in this range, I'm fine with that. What are your thoughts on Brooks? Because Brooks and DJ. I'm going to severely need to be talked into playing those guys, just because DJ, like he started off well last week, but he kind of faded a little bit. He's coming off of getting married recently. He hasn't really shown much this year, and Brooks hasn't shown anything this year. He even missed the cut at the Masters. So they're going to be the low-owned pivots in this range. I believe so. It looks like DJ is going to be a direct pivot off of Spieth, and Koepka is going to be a direct pivot off of Cantlay. So game theory wise, those seem like good plays, but it's really hard for me to stomach playing Brooks with how bad he's played this year. I know he's the major championship killer, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, I would say for both guys, they present great outright betting opportunities in probably not very good DraftKings plays, right?
Yeah.
Because the variance of outcomes for both guys, at least right now, is so wide that we're getting good numbers, right? We're getting DJ at 25 to 30 to 1. We're getting Koepka at 40 to 50 to 1. In major championship golf, where both guys continually put up solid numbers. At the same point in time, neither guy's really done anything of note recently. So I think, in terms of how you can hedge your bet a little bit there is, I think betting's just a better way to play those guys this week to deploy them and have an opportunity to win. I can't see myself making either guy a staple. You mentioned Cantlay. I've looked at the same things that you've looked at. And the fact that he hasn't really shown up in a major championship other than the Masters that he played in a few years ago, where he was in contention late into the tournament. It's just the big stage has been tough for him. The only caveat to that I would throw out is the version of golf that he played down the stretch through the playoffs, where he beat Bryson at the BMW, a very difficult, long, challenging course. And then, of course, to win the FedEx Cup. That says something. It's not the same as winning a major championship. Don't get me wrong, because guys like Billy Horschel and Xander have won those types of events.
Bill Haas.
Yeah, but they're not major championship winners. Right. So I get it. It's so hard because statistically he just rates out so perfectly. He's long off the tee. He's dead balls accurate with his approach. He's good around the greens, and his putter goes nuclear sometimes. And it's hard for me to stay away from him. So, I'll probably end up making him a staple in lineups. I like, what I saw from Hideki and Xander last week. For me, Xander's a recovery. And if you're going to play Patrick Cantlay, I feel like you have to play Xander. Like, to me, they're the same skill. They're the same skill set. Yeah. So those three guys, I think, will probably end up being where I go. And then the other guy I like, and no one's talking about, and I understand why, is Cam Smith. I think the thing that people need to recognize is Cam Smith is much longer than people want to give him credit for off the tee. He's just not very accurate. And to your point, when we're talking about a course where it's not ridiculously tree lined and the rough isn't 4 to 5 inches thick, you can be wayward off the tee. And if par score to par is a good score. A guy like Cam Smith can scramble his ass off like Jordan Spieth and get birdies and pars when they have no business doing that. So I think those will probably be the 4 guys that I'll lean on from this 9K range. And I know Cam Smith's a guy that, a lot of people are just going to say, look, he's not a bomber. You need to be good with approach, and that's just not him. But I think about the kind of guy that he is, how he won the Players, how he performed at Augusta, because I do think Augusta is a comp course for this, just in terms of length and profile, that I'll end up using him this week quite a bit.
Yeah. Mike, to answer your question in the chat, they should post the tee times. We should get them tomorrow for sure. By in the morning or by early afternoon, we should have the tee times. Yeah, man, I agree with all that, everything you just said. I think if we're going to comp Augusta here, I think if I'm going to play some Cam Smith, I'm definitely going to mix him in with Scotty Scheffler in a lineup for sure. Mm-hmm. Just because, I mean, let's face the truth here. They're probably been the best 2 players on the planet this year. This calendar
with
year.
Shane Lowry, because Shane, again, we'll get to him, but Shane Lowry's another guy that's been red hot this year.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm definitely going to have a lineup that starts Scheffler, Cam Smith, just in case if it's another master situation or whatever. These 2 guys have been battling it out like all year. So I do get what you're saying though. Cam Smith. He's an amazing putter on bent grass. He well, just in general, he's an amazing putter, but on bent grass especially, he's so good. He gets a little squirrely with his iron play. He gets a little squirrely off the tee. I get all that, but I mean, I don't know if he's mentally. I mean, I don't know if mentally he's still bummed out because of the Masters, because he seemed to have had that tournament in the bag. Well, not in the bag, but like he could have easily won that tournament. I don't really know, but I'm definitely going to go back to him. I like him this week. Vic, like you said, this is his home course from Oklahoma State. This he played in this area during college, so I definitely like Vic. The chipping around the green does scare me a little bit for Vic, but I definitely would like him. The guy I just don't have any clue what to do in this range is Spieth, man. Like God, man, he just is his pre-shot routine and his swing right now at this moment just makes me so disgusted to my stomach that but he's still playing so well, man. And he's obviously the main headline here because if he wins this week, he wins the Grand Slam, which is only a handful of people have ever done. So that's a big storyline coming into this week. I just do not know what to do with him because is Spieth going to win the PGA at Southern Hills? I don't know, man. At like -10, like I don't see that being a Spieth thing. Like it just doesn't seem like he's a thing. And the fact that he's chalky makes me want to go off of him. I don't know, man. I think if it was me building a lot of lineups, I think I'd rather just pay up to Cam Smith or Vic or go down to Xander and Hideki, who are the guys that I'm leaning more towards in this range.
The one thing that I would say about Spieth, I followed him around for a few holes, got to watch the round and how he played. He is such a momentum player when he's on the course.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, watching him play, it feels like he's one small thing away from just going terrible or going nuclear and running away with it. But it's impossible to know which one he's closer to. And so it makes it so difficult to watch him play because he's like on the edge of catastrophe every single shot. And for me, the points that you brought up and the fact that, I want to have peace of mind, especially in this range with the guys that I'm picking, I don't think I can get there with him either. With all of that being said, he could absolutely go out and win this thing. I mean, he's playing very, very well right now. The ball striking we talked about, he's at his best 2 weeks ball striking back to back. The putter has been the challenge, and historically, long form Jordan Spieth is one of the best putters in the history of the PGA Tour. We haven't seen it yet.
It cost him the tournament last week.
The 3-putt cost him.
Yeah, he 3-putted from like 7 feet, and that basically ended his. I mean, not ended his, but like that was the the dagger in the back right there was when he three-putted from 7 feet. When Spieth is putting, I'd much rather him be putting from 20 feet or 25 feet than 8 feet. It like scares me when he's putting from 8 feet because he'll either jam it by or he'll miss and he'll three-putt. And from 20 feet, he seems like he has the magic beans, like you said, to make those putts. And will we see that? Will he put all that together this week? I don't know. This is, he's still bad off the tee at times, and he's not the longest player in the world. I mean, he actually has gotten a little bit longer recently. I don't know what he's done, but his ball speed's gotten a little faster. But I just don't know what to do with them. I haven't made a decision on Monday, 3 days before this tournament starts. I literally have no idea what I'm doing with them. I'll make that decision obviously tomorrow or Wednesday what I'm going to do with them, but I'm leaning more towards a fade than a play at the moment.
I think I'm on the same page as you. Like I said, when you're running the rev limiter that high, that often, where you're literally one mistake away from just going straight yard sale out there, I just can't do it, man. I just can't. Yeah. I cannot do it. With all that being said, I think the one time I backed him, and I can't remember what tournament it was probably one of the funnest outright bet weeks that I've ever had, because it's so fun when you got money to watch him just do the ridiculous things that Jordan Spieth does on a golf course.
Yeah, he's definitely entertaining to watch. I will say that. As much as talking as he does, as much bitching and complaining he does during shots, it's annoying, but it's good TV. It's good TV. I feel bad for his caddy at times because he takes the brunt of it, but yeah, that's just how he is. He's a really nice guy off the course. I just don't think I could deal with like being his caddy.
Yeah, Michael Greller does a great job of managing that. Most of the guys that are on tour they're just phenomenal at managing the egos and the emotions of the guys that they work with, and probably nobody better than him and how he handles Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, him and Bryson's old caddy were probably the two. They deserve pay.
He is his old caddy, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he managed Bryson for 6-7 years and won a bunch with them. So I mean, you just got to deal with it. But all right, let's drop down to the 8s.
As you mentioned, the 8Ks here, again, star-studded field with a number of guys. I mentioned him. He's at 8,700. It's Shane Lowry, probably, at least statistically, the hottest guy on tour who has yet to win. There's some notable withdrawals obviously starting to pop up in Sungjae Im. For those that don't know, he tested positive for COVID in Korea, and so he's going to be unable, because of the protocols involved with getting back to the US.
What was he doing in Korea the week before the PGA Championship?
I don't know, dude. Walking around.
He was playing in some event, like he was trying to play in some golf event.
Yeah,
and then he got COVID and had to withdraw from that. I don't understand what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't understand his responsibilities. Obviously, he's got a number of major sponsors that are from South Korea, so he's got obligations and things that he needs to do. But, I mean, shit happens and people get sick. So, unfortunately, at a course where he sets up really, really well, we're not going to get to see him. It actually helps me out because it was one of those things as I was doing my evaluations, like, man, am I going to play Sungjae this week or not? The other guy that we need to keep an eye on is obviously Bryson DeChambeau. As of now, he's in. He had tweeted out earlier today that he was going to basically head to the course, test it out, try and play. That doesn't sound like a great DraftKings play if a guy's like, hey, I'm not really sure if I'm going to play, but I'm going to go test it out. Yeah. Even if he decides to tee off, there's a high possibility that he doesn't finish his round or make it through the cut. So for me, those two, obviously Sungjae we're crossing off. Bryson's very easy to cross off because of that. And probably the third guy that I at least throw into that mix of potential withdrawals is Tiger Woods. Tiger is still listed in the field.
He's not going to withdraw.
The only thing that I would say is, as labored as he looked at Augusta, we're talking about a course that is playing much longer. Obviously, we're not going to have necessarily as much elevation change, but this course does have quite a bit as well. And, we saw Tiger, make the cut, play okay. But at least in terms of DraftKings, it makes it very easy for me to cross him off the list, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes very similar to that week for me as whether or not he makes the cut. Making the cut is a victory for Tiger Woods. And if you're taking a guy at $8,200, you don't want make the cut being basically the high side of his potential outcomes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do the same thing I do all. By the way, when you're saying that the other guy that falls into that category of potential withdrawal, I thought you were gonna say Louis Oosthuizen, and not.
Oh yeah,
there's the other one.
For no reason other than he's Louis Oosthuizen and he withdraws all the time.
Yeah. I'm gonna do the same thing I do with Tiger Woods. For the last long time is just fade him in DraftKings, and if he wins, I'll just be happy. Just be happy with in my heart because he's my favorite golfer of all time. If he wins and I don't have any money on him or I don't win any money on him, no big deal. Whatever. I've lost more money on other golfers than that I don't want to see win than Tiger Woods. So I won't play him. But yeah, right in the middle of that range for me, Sung Jae, obviously cross off. Bryson Tiger, cross off for me, right in the middle. So then we move over to the guys at the top of the range and the bottom of the range. Shane Lowry is on Monday, early on a Monday, he's coming in as a chalk in this range. Obviously, I think we all feel the same way about Shane Lowry in this range. I'm going to eat the chalk with him. He seems like the best play in this range. We've seen how he plays well at hard courses. We saw him play well last year at the PGA Championship at Kiowa. So I think he's going to be my main guy to go to at the top of this range. Will Z is just like starting to make me angry just because I just bet him every week and I bet him again this week and he just never wins. And I think
he's a great DraftKings play, though. He's a great DraftKings play.
He's a great DraftKings play, but I think I like him a little bit more in a week like this, where the winning score is going to be like -10 or whatever, compared to last week where the winning score is -26, because the guy just can't make putts. He missed a 4-footer on Friday on hole 16. That if he just makes the 4-footer, and I watched the putt, it was like straight. It was a straight putt, and he just pushed it. Makes that putt, he makes the cut, and he's just frustrating. With all that being said, I'm going to play Will Z. I play him every week. I bet him every week. So definitely in on Will Z, definitely in on Lowry. And then the other guy, I'm in on every week that if you guys watch the show and it's no surprise that I'm going to play, is Neiman. The guy is playing week in, week out. He's competing and he belongs in this big boy field, and he dominated at a tough course earlier this year at Genesis, and at a course where the winds could get whipping. I love his ball flight in this situation where he can keep the ball low. He's sneaky long off the tee to green. He's been playing great. He's a good putter on bent grass. His chipping has gotten better. So the usual guys for me in this range: Will Z, Shane Lowry, Neiman at the top of the range, and I just don't know what to do with the guys at the bottom of the range. You're going to have to talk to me about Hatton, Homa, Connors, and Usti. I don't really know who to play in that range.
Yeah, much like you, Usti's just a cross off for me. We just, his success that he had last year, he hasn't been able to recapture any of that. The potential that always exists in that we talked about a withdraw just makes it really easy for me to cross him off the list. But Hatton, Homa, and Connors, I like all three guys a lot. If you like Corey Connors at the Masters, then you should like him here. All of the same things that we were looking for and that the course demands are the same things that we're talking about this week. Corey Connors does everything very, very well. And so I think in terms of safety on DraftKings, like if you're talking about made cut equity, getting a little bit of money or savings because his price point's in the low 8s, like I love Connors. Homa is a little more variable in terms of like his potential range of outcomes. He could miss the cut. He could finish first. I like him better as a bet. Like we mentioned, last week when we were recapping the previous week, the only week that he's won that bet him was last week. Yeah, I literally bet him all the time. But I do think there is a case for him to be a good DraftKings play. He's long off the tee. He's good with approach. But around the greens and with the putter, you just got to hope that he has a good week like he did when he won. And then Hatton, again, if we're talking about wind and tough conditions and those kinds of things, he becomes more and more attractive. And again, he's pretty good around the greens. And then putting is one of those things, man, where some weeks we see him and he looks like an all-star, and other weeks he looks absolutely lost. And you just gotta, if you're taking him in this, I think it's because you're getting an ownership break from Woods or from Corey Connors, and you're looking to get leverage. I don't know if he could be a staple. I love Neiman just like you do. And the only other two guys that we didn't really talk about, but at least to mention them, are Berger and Burns. Burns, Although even in the team event, dude, like I felt like Horschel carried that team for them, which is nuts to say.
Yeah.
But there were times where he looked great and just he looked lost.
Hmm.
I don't really know what to do with Burns. Obviously, he's got a pretty good record based off of what he did last year at the PGA Championship. And then Berger, maybe it's proximity. Maybe he's a West Coast guy, and West Coast in Florida, just play him there. Texas swing, and majors that aren't there, we just avoid him. I don't know. I don't really have a good feel for Berger this week, so that's going to make him a cross off for me.
Yeah.
But I could, if for whatever reason Neiman gets chalky, I could see pivoting to Berger if I can get him at 5-6% ownership, and maybe I'm a little bit overweight on the field by adding more shares of Burns versus Neiman.
Yeah, Berger. I mean, forget about Neiman. Berger is going to be a direct pivot off of Shane Lowry. So, I mean, like if you want to play game theory there, you can fade Lowry, play Berger. I get it. But just because I'm going to be going to Will Z, Lowry, and Neiman in this range, Burns and Berger kind of get squeezed out for me at the top of the range. I can't play everybody.
Yep.
Berger, I mean, last time we saw him, he was playing well at RBC Heritage, which is obviously a way different course than this week. Then he withdrew from the Mexico Open, so I don't know if he's hurt. I mean, he's been kind of having a lingering injury issue all season, so that scares me a little bit. So that also adds to a cross off for me. And Burns just broke my heart last week, man. He was in one of my main lineups, and he played awful last week at a course where he had finished second the year before, so I thought it would be a course that he could light up with birdies, and he just missed the cut by a mile. So that scares me a little bit. Like you said, these guys, Burns, Berger, I like him more in Florida on Bermuda, as we always say, Bermuda Burns and stuff like that. So they're going to get squeezed out for me here. At the bottom, Hatton. I mean, the guy's been the stud this year. If you take out Augusta, like besides the Masters, he's played well in every tournament. He's a world-class bent grass putter. He's one of the best bent grass putters in the world. So I love that from him. His stats don't really pop, but at a difficult course where the score is going to be like -8, -10, maybe even lower than that, I could see Hatton coming through. We've seen him win at where did he win? API. So he won, or was it the Honda? I can't remember, but one of those courses he won at where
Bay Hill, difficult track,
difficult conditions, and a winning score of like -5. If the winning score is -5 this week, Hatton can easily win this tournament. So, I think for me at the bottom, it's going to be Hatton and Corey Connors, just because, like you said, this seems like a perfect course for Connors, and I just never play Homa, so Homa's going to get squeezed for me there. So, it's a tough range. It gets a little weird and a little squirrely with Sung Jae being a withdraw, and then Bryson right in the middle. Not sure really what his ownership's going to be. And Tiger, I mean, he's going to garner some ownership, but not really. So it gets a little weird. It just seems like it gets more like top heavy in this range or bottom heavy. So it's just, I think this is going to be the area where it's going to really make or break your lineups, and you could even potentially skip this whole range and go to the 7K range because we got some good golfers there too.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, if we want to go ahead and jump to the 7Ks to it, since we talked to this, it's again, because it's a major, it's star packed. There are studs every level above and below 7K. For me, there are a handful of guys that I really like. I like Finau. I like Fitz. I like Taylor Gooch off a bounce back week. Kokrak is very interesting because of the long-term form and kind of what he does. I love Luke List this week. He rates out really well. And when we talk about a guy who plays well at long tracks and likes tough conditions, that's Luke List. You just got to hope he doesn't putt worse than the field. Your boy EVR back after a while. We haven't seen him. And, he's shown up in big tournaments here as of late and played very, very well quietly. So those are the guys that I kind of like this week. HV3, who we haven't seen in a little while, so a little bit of recency bias where I think folks may be forgetting how well he has been playing because it's been 3-4 weeks since we've seen him on a golf course. But HV3 is another guy, pounds the ball off the tee, very good on approach, decent around the greens. You just got to hope he has a decent putting week or he doesn't lose 5 strokes. But those are the names I think, at least for me, that kind of jump off. Where do you think you're going to end up going to in this range? Who are the guys you really like?
Well, you left the main name off the list.
I know. I didn't want to steal
Everyone,
your thunder. I did not want
everyone's
to steal
talking.
your thunder.
Cam Young, man, this guy's a stud. He is so good. It's just unbelievable how good he is at every different type of course. I get it. I get that the main thing that's scaring people off potentially is his performance at the Masters and his performance at the Players Championship, which are two really big boy fields. But I'm actually going to give him a straight up pass on both of those. Guys, first time seeing Augusta, sometimes it just never goes good. I mean, that course is like a different beast in itself. So I get it. His first Masters, he probably had his first major championship. He probably had a lot of jitters and stuff like that. I'm going to give him a straight up pass on that. I'm also going to give him a straight up pass on the Players Championship too, just because of how weird that week was with the weather and all that stuff. Whatever. If he missed 2 cuts, besides those 2 tournaments, he's literally been a top 10, top 8 machine this year. The fact that he hasn't won a tournament yet is surprising. He should have won the Genesis if it wasn't for Neiman just going off at that event. So the guy, I mean, this seems like a bomber's track. The guy just moves it off the tee. His iron play has been phenomenal, and he's a good putter too, man. And I just think I mean, yes, he's priced 7,600 right now, but this time next year at the PGA Championship, he could be priced in the 9K. So we might be looked back and saying, this is a deal for him at 7,600. So I'm just going to go to him, man. He's my lock play in this range. He's just been so good. If he burns me again in a major championship, then I'll probably hold off on playing him at majors until I see something. But I'm going to forget about the Masters, forget about the Players, and just concentrate on the fact that he's been so freaking good at every other tournament he's played this year, and he's knocking on the door. If he won this tournament, would it shock most of the public? Yes, because most of the public doesn't know who Cam Young is. Would it shock me and you? I don't think it would shock me and you one bit, or the DFS community, like if Cam Young wins this. And we're seeing that he is coming in chalky here. So Cam Young's my lock and load play in this range. I also like Fitz at the top. I know that his length, it kind of diminishes his ability here a little bit, but like we talked about it before, like at tough tracks, at a place where you need to grind out par, and a final score of possibly -5, -6. I mean, Fitz is right in that range, man. Even at long, tough courses, he seems to get the job done and be right there on Sunday in contention. So definitely towards the top of this range, I like Fitz and I like Cam Young. And I also like Fleetwood a little bit at 7,600. He's been playing good. He's played well in major championships, tough tracks before in the past. We saw him finish second at Shinnecock Hills. We've seen him finish second at another major. What was the other one that Brooks won? Aaron Hills. So we've seen him play well, and he's been playing pretty well this season. So I will at a tough track, I'll take some Fleetwood also at the top of this range. So those are my 3 plays that I really like from 7,500 and above.
Yeah, I mean, if there are a few names I kind of mentioned the guys I really like. I think, anytime we get Tony Finau sub $8,000, sign me up. We've seen improvements and things flash. So, you got to hope that the long-term form shows up, right?
Yeah.
And Tony Finau plays like Tony Finau for 4 rounds. I do like Fitz as well. The other 2 guys that I like are Adam Scott and Leishman. Leishman, a lot of people were on him last week, and he absolutely disappointed. I mean, he made the cut, but he really didn't do anything. And then Adam Scott for the same reasons. Folks really thought Adam Scott would be in contention and be a name this year in a number of big tournaments, and it hasn't materialized at all. But in terms of made cut equity, and again what the course is going to demand, both guys are Aussies, and the fact that it could get windy, like I kind of like that narrative. The other guy that, I mean, again, statistically, he rates out immaculate, and he's been playing very, very well, is Keegan Bradley. Keegan is a major champion. He's
former champion. Yeah,
he's won a PGA championship.
Where did he win that PGA?
Oh my gosh, it's been at least 6 or 7 years.
He won it. I know where he won it at Aronimink. Tough track.
Yeah. Keegan's, I think there's a case for Keegan. He's just been playing really, really good. And like we said, he's a former champion. He's got good I should say tournament history in the PGA Championship. So I do like Keegan as well, too. I mean, the reality is that, even though there's probably going to be some chalky names, because there are so many options here, I think ownership's going to be dispersed.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think even Cam Young, who everyone's talking about, like, if Cam Young gets to, I don't know, 15%, to me, you can still be overweight on him.
Yeah.
And I think you can play who you like in this region and area without the fear of getting too chalky. Obviously, there's guys that have withdrawn. There were two other names that I wanted to throw at you just to get your opinion. One of them is Matthew Wolff at 7,300. We saw him flash in a single round and play great, and then he's been right back to being terrible. Okie State guy, one of the best players to ever come out of Oklahoma State. So there is that narrative. And then the other guy that I wanted to throw at you just to get your take on, if I can find him here. Where is he at? A guy that I really like that he's an international guy, but Thomas Peters. Thomas Peters is like long-term pedigree, tough tracks, long courses, smashes the ball off the tee, great with long irons. He's a big dude. And if this thing's going to play windy and tough, I could see Thomas Peters being there. Could he win? That's a tall ask, right? Because the guy's never won a PGA Tour event, but he has won on the European Tour here this year. He's won a couple times recently out there. And I just think, again, when you're talking about pedigree and the fact that you can get him at $7,100, with the likes of, Mav McNeely, who I don't like, Cam Tringali, he's just a much better name for me. But what's your take? I guess probably more Wolff on anything. Where do you think he is? Do you think anybody even goes there?
Not for DFS, for Wolff. I think he's a better bet. If anything, he can't put 4 rounds together, man. And even though we've seen him play well at tough tracks, like, where Bryson won his US Open, Wolff finished second at that US Open. And, I can't remember the name of the course, but that was like a -2, -5 course. So we've seen him play well at tough tracks in major championships before. I just can't get there in DFS for him. I just have to fade him in DFS, and just, if he wins, he wins. It's a good option to bet, but I can't get there with him in DFS. And then for Thomas Peters, I'm not going back to him. Not after the Masters, man. He shot like +10 or 12 at the Masters. I get it. Like, you just asked me about 2 guys that can literally blow up and finish DFL, or they can finish in the top 5 potentially. That's just their range of outcomes. And I get the boom and bust play. Like, it's nice to have that volatility in DraftKings, but not for me. For in that range where Matthew Wolff is, I would 100 times out of 100 times, I'm just going to play Kokrak over Wolff in that situation. Maybe even Bubba, maybe even Sergio or Siwoo right below him. So no, I'm out on those 2 guys. I like Kokrak at a long course. He's bomber track. He's good off the tee. He's won at Colonial in the past, which is this area of the country. I like Kokrak. I'm with you on List, man. I think this is a good comp for Bethpage when Brooks won the PGA a couple years ago. Luke List finished, I think, 2nd or 3rd at that tournament. So I definitely like Luke List. He just won it. If I'm going to comp this to the Farmers, to Torrey, he just won a Torrey a couple months ago. So definitely in on the List, and Kokrak in this range. And if I'm going to comp this to Bethpage, I'm going to go to HV32 at 7,000 flat, where he was in the final group with Brooks. I mean, yeah, he shot like 90 or something that day, but he was still in that championship. And I do like Varner at tough long tracks. He seems to pop at those kind of events. So those are probably my 3 favorite plays in the low 7K range, and EVR too. I went on Fantasy National earlier today, and I just clicked the difficult courses and 7,300 to 7,500 length or whatever, those two filters, and he was number one strokes gained total. So he's obviously pops at like tough courses and plays well at tough courses. So those are my plays down here: EVR, List, Kokrak, HV3. I can't really get anywhere. I don't really like anyone else. Maybe a little Alex Noren. I don't know, but that's about it. Mike keeps advocating for Finau in the chat. He seems to love Finau at 7,900. Yeah, Mike, I hear you, man. I mean, Finau is a good play. I mean, it's just, are we getting Finau from the last 2 years, or are we getting Finau from this year? Because this year he's been god awful, and I just don't. I would rather go to Fitz at a situation like this personally. But I get the love for Finau. It's a good price. He's 12th overall in Tony's model here. But you know, I don't know. Me personally, I'd rather go to Fitz. I think Tony leans a little bit more towards Finau. So tough call, coin flip between those two, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, that's my thoughts in the 7K range.
Yeah, no, I can't really argue with anything else there. You know, the other guy that I kind of like, and it just, I don't know why, maybe just because he continues to make cuts and play pretty well, and he's kind of a name that's under the radar, is Hoagie. He's not, there's nothing flashy about him, right? Like he just kind of plots along and he scores and he doesn't put up big numbers. You know, he's excellent in approach. He's really good on long par fours. You know, he's not the longest guy off the tee. But you know, he's really good with long irons, and you know, when we're talking about playing guys down here in the low 7Ks, like that made cut equity is a huge thing. And to your point, I think a lot of people are going to use EVR. A lot of people are going to use Luke List, and a guy like Hoagie versus the other names in that range, like he presents a lot of made cut equity, which is, like I said, that's 90% of what you're looking for here in the low 7Ks.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I will say about Hoagie, me personally, Hoagie and Seamus Power also is, I played them both last week in my main lineup, and I think I like them more in birdie fests like last week. I don't know. I just don't think I have enough data on them at tough courses, and if the score is going to not be a birdie fest, then I just don't know. I can't formulate an opinion on that. I'd rather go to someone that I have data points on, like Harold Varner or Kokrak or something like that. So I don't know. Yeah, they're good pivot plays for sure. Power and Hoagie both. They're going to be low owned for sure. I don't know. They're probably cross offs for me in a non birdie fest.
Last guy I'm going to ask you about, because we're probably not going to say much about the 6Ks.
Don't say Ricky Fowler, please. Don't say Ricky Fowler.
Okie State guy.
I'm not playing him.
Great PGA Championship history.
Get out of here.
Terrible last year, and he finished in 8th place.
He's $1,000 overpriced.
I know.
He should be 6,000.
He's
what do you think? I mean, you think he deserves to be 7,000?
I don't even think he's going to have a tour card in a year or two. Like I don't know why. Like I don't know what happened. Like he's literally dog shit. Like he's terrible.
He got married. I think that's it. He got married and had a kid. I think that just ruined his ability to concentrate on golf. And he gets paid so much money from his sponsors and his advertisements and stuff like that I just don't think he really cares about golf.
Man, he's going to go dominate on the Live Tour, though. I'll tell you that much.
Maybe, yeah. He might not play in it this year, but if he loses his tour card, he will be the ambassador and the main shining star for the Live Tour next year.
Yep. All right, let's go down the 6Ks. Let's do this quickly, but I'll give you the guys I like here. I like Bobby Mack for the same reasons I like Bobby Mack at Augusta. I think this is a great setup for Aaron Wise. I've been pretty critical on all the people that continue to use and bet Aaron Wise every week, but this is a week where I think it makes a lot of sense. Seabass rates out well, but the point that you made about Hoagie and Birdie Fests, I don't necessarily like Munoz at very tough tracks, and that negates a lot of his value to me. Mito, we saw Mito finally pop up, play well. And again, if we're talking about a place where it's going to be difficult and putting could be mitigated, I like Mito a lot better in those types of events. Other than that, there isn't a ton here that I like in the 6Ks. The only other guy that I would go maybe a little bit deeper is JJ Spawn. Spawn's been playing very, very well. And obviously he's won here recently. And then again, just to throw it out there, bounce back, Hadwin. Everybody was all over him last week. He misses the cut. Nobody's going to play him this week. And I think if you throw out last week, he's been playing fantastic. So Hadwin's probably the other guy that'll go to super, super deep. And then the last guy, and Mike knows this because, Mike and I have been playing DFS for about the longest time, but I always play Ryan Fox in US Opens and PGA Championships. Every single time.
He is
He hits the shit out of the ball. And if you're talking about a track that demands it, I will play Ryan Fox in lineups this week when I need to go deep in the 6Ks.
He just won a couple months ago on the DP World Tour.
I know. He's playing better this year quietly because, nobody follows anything internationally.
I do. No, I agree with that. I'll definitely have a little sprinkle of Ryan Fox in my lineups. I'm with you on Bobby Mack at the top. I also like Champ at the top too. Yes. 6,900. I think at a course where if we're going to comp it to Augusta, he played really well at Augusta earlier this year. Long bomber track. He's been playing good. I mean, sneakily, he's been playing pretty well over the last couple months. So I definitely like Champ. Wise, I'm a little teetering on. I like it. He pops in your model. He's number 11 in your model. I do like that. He is long off the tee. I could definitely see maybe getting to Wise. I'm with you on Munoz too. I'm not really feeling him on Birdie Fest. I don't really know what to do with Mito because I think I like him more in Birdie Fest than a tough track. So I don't really know. I mean, I play Mito every week, but I might not play like overweight on him this week. So yeah. Just kind of in a gray area with Mito for me. Below that, I think I really like Keith Mitchell this week at 6,600. I think that's a good price for him. Even though we always play Keith at Bermuda tracks and stuff like that, but he's been sneakily playing really well this year. His tee to green game has gotten a lot better, even at non-Bermuda tracks. He's been putting well. I think him at 6,600 is a steal, to be completely honest with you. I think that's a little bit of a misprice. He should be. There's no reason why Keith Mitchell should be priced lower than Bobby Mack or Cam Champ or Ryan Palmer for that matter. So I like that. I think that's a little value at 6,600. Dropping below that, not much. I mean, I play Honorable Lahiri every week just because he's my Indian brother, but I mean, he's not really, this doesn't seem like a really good fit for him, but I'll have a little sprinkle of him just because he's been playing really well over the last couple months. Troy Merritt at 6,400. I mean, he's a good putter on bent grass greens. He's okay. I mean, I just kind of like him more in birdie fests like we always talk about. I don't really have any other names other than Ryan Fox down here. Everyone else seems like not really the type of guy. Chan Kim tends to pop sometimes at these events, but I don't really know much about him. No, I don't really have anyone else. I mean, Sam Horsfield at 6,700. He just won last week on the DP World Tour.
Yeah, finally got it done. Yeah,
finally got it done. He's a good golfer, man. I mean, I've seen him. I follow.
He's an American too, and people just don't know that because he plays in Europe.
No, he's not. He's not American.
Horsfield's American.
No, he's not. He's British.
I swear, unless I'm confusing him with someone else, I swear Horsfield's American.
You're definitely confusing. He has a British flag next to his name. Trust me.
Oh, I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed.
You're confusing him with John Catlin.
Maybe
that guy's American.
I swear I thought Horsfield. No, I'm confusing him with someone, so doesn't matter.
Any thoughts on Cam Davis?
Cam Davis is one of those guys for me, right? He's long off the tee. He's great with the approach. You just got to hope the driver, which can get kind of wayward, that it's not going to hurt him. So I could see sprinkling Cam Smith in. The other guy that I kind of was going to ask you about is Lonto. Been playing pretty good as of late. And I mean, Lonto below $6,500. There's just seems like a crap load of value there. At least
that seems like good value. Yeah, I didn't even see his name. I can't even believe he's priced down this low. He's been playing really well over the last few events. I mean, he's been top 20, top 15 machine. So I don't know how well this course fits him per se. I think I kind of like him at shorter tracks maybe a little bit. I don't know. He's not really that long off the tee. So, but yeah, good value. The price is great on Lonto, so I could definitely go to him. I think him and what is Lonto priced at? I don't even see him.
I want to say 6,300.
Oh yeah, that's a steal, man. Him at 6,300 and him and Keith Mitchell at 6,600. I don't have any problem with people rounding out their lineups and with those two guys.
Yep. Yeah, I think those three guys, Lonto, Hadwin, and Fox at the 63s, like the top of the 6,300 range, like
Yeah.
I think I think I'll end up using all three of those guys. I really do.
Yeah, and one last name that I know we're running long tonight, so one last name that I just want to say, Kevin Na. I mean, I don't know where his mind is right now because I think he's ready to go play the live tour. Mike, we talked about Wise. We both like him, so I don't know what he's asking. No Wise. We just talked about him.
Yeah.
Kevin Na. I don't know where his mind is because he's going to go play the live tour. I think the Saudi tour. So, but still at a course where if we're going to comp it to Augusta, if we're going to, if we're going to talk about grinding out par, which is something Kevin Na is great at, and the guy wins. We know he wins. He wins every season. So,
Yep.
is he going to win a major? No, but at 6,900, you don't need him to win. You need him to, make the cut and finish top 10 would be great, which I could easily see Kevin not doing at this tournament. So just one last name before we get into our bets.
Got it. What about your boy Ryan Palmer? Good showing last week.
Yeah, I guess.
Good at Torrey, $6,900.
Texas guy. He went to Texas A&M, so a Big 12 guy. Yeah, I could see that. He's very long off the tee. I just that 6,900 range right there. There's just so many guys there that I like.
Yeah, good options.
Back at Cam Champ and I even like Vegas a little bit. Chris Kirk is good. Charles played well last week also, but
yeah.
I don't know. I think Palmer just gets a little squeezed out for me. I don't know. He's okay. He's just a meh play.
Yeah, I guess generally stay away from this. There's a couple guys, nuggets that you threw out and that I mentioned that I think you can go to and have some confidence, at least made cut equity. But yeah, I mean, as much as you can, try and round out in the 7Ks. Like, don't do it if you don't have to.
Yep.
All right, getting to the cards this week, I'll go first. I mentioned it to you like before and even a little bit this week. Like I just at 14-1, there's value in John Rahm, which seems crazy, but there is. Same thing with Morikawa at 22. I think that's a similar number that I bet him at when he won the British Open and nobody thought he had a chance. Cantlay, again, I have a Cantlay problem. I'll be the first one to tell you that. Cam Smith at 25, I think there's some value there. Again, the course has to play a particular way for him to be in contention. But if Scotty Scheffler is the odds-on favorite because of what he's done here and how he played at Augusta, then I don't know how you can ignore what Cam Smith has done. So, like Cam Smith, Decky, I think, that number at 28, even though it was 50 a week ago, I think he sets up very, very well. Long off the tee, great with long irons and long approaches, checks all the boxes. Neiman for all of the things that you said. And then I will not make the mistake of not betting Max Homa. After watching him win and not being on him, I can never do that again.
What's his number this week?
So his number was 60, but I think it's going to drift. I think if I can hold out till like Wednesday, I think that number is going to be closer to like 70, 75. So I'm going to sit on it, wait. But right now, I think you can get him anywhere from like 50 to 70, depending on what your book has. Okay. And then bombs. We mentioned a number of these guys, but I mean, dude, guys like Gooch and Wise, those guys were, I don't know, like 35-1 a week or two ago. And now we're getting them at, more than 100-1. So there's value there. And again, Bryson, I'm probably throwing money away. But for some crazy reason, if he's healthy enough to play, and this is a bomber's course, Bryson fits the narrative. But I'm probably tossing my money away with that bet. And then a couple other guys, like I said, I actually really like the Luke List bet at 200 and the Cam Champ bet at 150. And all of my bombs this week, I'm probably going to have T5s, T10s, or T20s, depending on how the numbers shake out. More than likely T5s and T10s, just to try and get a decent payout if any one of those guys can show some upside.
Yeah, I like it. My card's pretty similar. Me and Tony don't even talk about our cards before.
I know, it's funny. Yeah.
We just kind of do them. But yeah, I'm very similar at the top here. I got Rahm at 14. I think that's great. Pretty good value for him. I think he's my pick to win this week, so I'm definitely going to be on him. If he wins, I don't want to miss that. Morikawa, 22, great number for him. He's, PGA Championship pedigree. He's, he won a couple times ago. So Will Z, just like you have a Cantlay problem, I have a Will Z problem. I'm in on Lowry at 40, Neiman at 45, and Fitz at 50. For my bombs here, Cam Young, I got an 80. Louis, just a value play here. I think 80 to 1's a little bit too steep for him. Same with Bryson at 100, just like you. Both of these guys are, major championship pedigree at tough courses. So these numbers just don't seem right. I think Louis should be lower. I think Bryson should be lower. If Bryson does withdraw before the tournament, obviously we get our money refunded for Bryson, and that will go towards somebody else. I'll probably put it towards like Cam Champ or Bobby Mack or something like that. I'll tweet that out if that happens. Kokrak at 125, I think is good value. Fleetwood at 130, Gooch at 130, EVR, Luke List, and Keith Mitchell round out my card at 200 and 250 to 1. So me and Tony have pretty similar cards this week. There's a lot of guys that we overlap on. One of these days I am going to get him to bet Cam Young, even though he refuses to do it. He never does it, but he's gonna miss out on that win.
You know what, dude? I do like Cam Young. I love watching him play and all the things that he does. I can't argue with him. I just couldn't. It's like the same reason you can't get to Max Homa. I just can't get there with Cam Young. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's nothing I don't like about him. There's nothing I can be like, oh, he sucks at this. It's just I can never get there.
Yeah, I feel the same way at Max Homa. I can't get there, but I just never bet him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our cards this week. It's going to be a fun week. I'm excited, man. Thursday through Sunday, major championship week. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we got the show out a day early, so it gives you a little extra time to consume it. I will post out my model. Our bets are already out there on Twitter, but I'll post a link to my model if anybody wants to look at the overall ranking. Again, we appreciate it. Rick, thanks for being on tonight. Mike, thank you so much for producing. We apologize for going a little bit long, but it is a major championship, so good luck this week. I hope we catch a winner, and maybe, Rick, maybe we can even take down a DK tournament this week. That would be nice.
Let's do it, man. 6 figures would be nice.
All right, man, that's going to do it for us. Good luck this week, and everybody have a great night.